This is The Second Studio, hosted by two architects, myself, David Lee, and Marina Bordelrene. This week is the two of us in the studio, and that's it. It's just an after-hours conversation. We have nothing planned this time. We don't know what we're going to talk about, so you might receive 60 minutes of silence. That would actually be a pretty good... We should do like a meditative sound bath experience podcast. That could be interesting. We should play with the media, right? Question the media. Yeah. Right?
I'm doing 2 minutes of silence.
They can't hear you. Sponsors.
This episode of The Second Studio is brought to you by BQE Core, the all-in-one firm management software built for architects. Designed by architects for architects, Core helps you track time effortlessly, manage projects seamlessly, and get paid faster so you can focus on design, not spreadsheets. With powerful automation and real-time insights, it's everything you need to run a smarter, more profitable firm. See how BQE Core can transform your practice by clicking the link in our show notes. Available with Revit version 2023.1 onward, Autodesk Insight is a next-generation carbon analysis tool that can help you make the leap to low-carbon design. With only a few clicks, Insight lets you analyze, understand, and track the embodied and operational carbon impact of your design choices. You can then visualize opportunities for energy efficiency and carbon mitigation with its flexible dashboards, helping you make more sustainable and informed decisions. Check out the Insight link in our show notes to find out more.
This is The Second Studio with the two of us. Here we go.
Sound bath. We went to one once. And
I think we went to two. No, we went to one.
I went to one. I don't know if you've been, but
yeah,
I went to only one. It's something I have to say. When I heard of, I was kind of like, oh, what is this like white hippie shit? You know, to be frank.
White hippie shit.
Yeah, what is it? You get some cool balls and like
some what?
A ball, because you do it with a ball.
Oh, a bowl.
Yeah.
Bowl. Yeah,
sure. And I was like, okay, you get some cool ball and then like a stick or whatever. Yeah, well, you know, it's easy to criticize people's accent when you only speak one language. So fuck off. But anyway, so I was always kind of like, oh, it's just a way of like showing off your dinnerware or whatever it is. It's like an excuse to go buy a nice piece of like dinnerware.
Yeah, we get it. You know, you buy handcrafted dinnerware. I get it. Fine.
And those things are expensive. I think I looked it up once. I was like, what? It's like the size of a salad bowl. And like, why is it costing so much? It's like made of like some special stone or whatever, you know. And I'm like,
I thought it was metal. I never paid attention. I assumed it was like, a metal to resonate the sound.
No, the ones I've seen, they're like, I don't know if they're made of like onyx or whatever, fancy stone or whatever. And it's like, you rub it and it makes that special sound. I want to sound... Maybe there's different kind. I'm not an expert. But anyway, I've always thought like, another like white trend on like how to be cool, you know. And then we got invited to one.
Probably appropriated from some other ancient culture.
Yeah. No, but that's what I'm saying. Like another white appropriation of like some other culture that was there for like centuries, right?
And those people are like looking forward in time, like, what are they doing with our salad bowl? Strange.
I know. But we got invited to one, and you know, I mean, as much as I had my thoughts on the bowl ceremony thing, I figured like, well, let's go and test it out. And I have to admit that it was actually a pretty relaxing but also exhausting experience because.
But there was two parts to it.
You want to mention the parts? One was like more of a breathing. It's not really an exercise, but kind of like a...
Depends on what kind of shape you're in.
Well, it was an exercise, but you know, it wasn't like a workout. It's like I don't even know what they call it, like a breathing...
I think it's called breath work.
Okay, breath work.
Which was very intense and led by a friend of ours who
was very good at it.
It's not their full-time job, but they were like really good at being the breath work leader, coach, whatever person.
And you know, you go to those things that it might not be your thing, but I feel like if you go, you kind of have to play along to really experience the thing, right?
Yeah, which I wasn't very good at. Did you commit to the breath
work?
Well,
I was pregnant when we went, and I don't think it was known. I don't think it was known to the world. And actually, the breath work when you're pregnant is pretty hard. because your abdomen is busy, you know, and you're like trying to like contract and expel air and all of that stuff. So
not babies.
Anyway, so the breathwork was exhausting. It made me dizzy doing it. Even though I was laying down on the ground, I felt like the room was spinning, which tells you how out of shape I was.
But I think a lot
pregnant.
of people felt that way. I mean, you definitely had people who were, this was on the west side in Los Angeles for some context, right? So you had people who were in their zone. That's their comfort space. They're in like their yoga, aloe, whatever attire, Lululemon. And then you have others who are new to this, and in our case, very out of shape. But there's a couple of people who afterwards were saying that the breath work was not just a meditative, calm Zen thing. Like there's a quality to that, but it was pretty exhausting. So I was getting dizzy. I had to stop.
I mean, if you think about it, it's like you bring in and expel out so much more air than when you normally breathe.
Right.
That it makes sense that it would make you feel
Let's
that
see
way.
a demonstration. Let's hear a demonstration.
No, I know.
But yeah, I got super dizzy during the part when we were sitting up.
Yeah.
And I found it uncomfortable to sit on the floor because I don't sit on the floor. And I think for actually
What are
for
you
most
talking about?
adults,
You sit on the floor for dinner every night?
No, but that's different. I don't find it very comfortable.
Aren't you Asian? Isn't this part of your culture?
And so, but yeah, getting dizzy, I had to stop. I did not even like go every other breath. I just stopped.
Oh, really?
I just was like looking around to catch my breath.
I was trying not to open my eyes, but it's kind of hard because you kind of want to know what's going on.
Yeah, and then in terms of committing, there's a portion of the breath work where you're supposed to exhale, but like make a loud sound, like basically a scream or a shout or a grunt, whatever you would call it, like a visceral, guttural sound that's very primal to let it out, which I believe it makes sense. I don't think that's like woo-woo fake stuff. That does something. And of course, those who were committed, and for the rest of us, you could tell people were half committed. Like, how much do I have to do this to make it seem like I'm not, participating? I'm not participating. But yeah, it's pretty intense. Like,
but yoga classes, they do that too. They do like the ums and like,
But the ums is I could do. That's like more.
No, but they also do like some of that breathing. It's not as intense as that breath work, class that we did. But they do a little bit of that, and I've never made a sound.
Yeah, it's just
I'm
tough.
like, it's not for me. I don't know. But anyway, it was very cool. But the sound bath thing is a very pleasant sound. I have to say the salad bowl is worth the price because it was very pleasant sound.
Oh, they carried around, right?
I think she was on stage because it's a pretty big, heavy thing.
No, but someone was walking around at some point.
It was with the rain disc.
The rain stick.
It wasn't a stick. I think it was a disc.
Oh, okay.
I think it was some sort of tray because I tried to look. It wasn't a stick because I have a stick but I really love the sound of that tray rain stick. I have a rain stick that is cool, but because of the length of it, like I feel like you kind of like lose some of the magic of the sound.
Oh, okay.
I think it was a tray or a disc, and you kind of like could feel that it would just continuously rain. And that was pretty mesmerizing. Actually, I might have to buy myself one for Christmas.
Do you know how to make a rain stick?
I mean, I'm sure you take a pipe, you close it on one end, put a bunch of shit in it, like crumbs, sand, rocks, whatever, and that's it, right?
It's actually, you could probably do it that way, but it's cactus.
What do you mean it's cactus?
It's cactus. It's dried out. And this is what I learned.
The actual tube?
The rain stick, yeah.
Oh,
This is what I learned when I was in third grade.
Are you sure?
Who knows? I learned about the rainforest. I learned about rain sticks. Didn't learn anything else. No, it's a piece of cactus that's dry, and they push the needles inward, and then they fill it with I think historically it's beans.
That kind of makes sense because the one I have is decorated with a bunch of like dot motif.
I don't remember what it looks like, but sure.
Yeah. It's like, there is like a motif on it, but it's like painted dots. I might have to look up a video.
So what you hear are beans that are bouncing, going through the needles, like that. What's that game where you drop the ping pong ball and it bounces around? Yeah. It's like that. Yeah, rain stick.
Oh, that's pretty. Oh, wow, that's even cooler.
Yeah, I don't know how they do the
I
disc. Maybe the disc is also like a big. I don't know how they do the disc.
Maybe they chop the cactus the other direction.
I don't know. Giant cactus. I do remember though that the sound bath, all of it was good.
Yeah.
But the breathwork coach, again, the person that we know, objectively, they did like a really good job.
Yeah.
It's to the point where afterwards, it's like you could do this full time.
Yeah.
Like you could be on TV doing it. It was that clear and smooth and thoughtful. The sound bath person was, by contrast, very clunky.
Yeah.
The dialogue was kind of like, it wasn't clear. It was meandering. There was a lot of awkward pauses and filler words, and you could just tell it was clunky. And there was no sense of continuity or like arc or flow. It was just, it was distracting actually at some point for me, especially after the breath work.
You know, that reminds me, you know, our time in New York when we would go to do like workout class and
Not
places.
me.
Well,
You.
I mean, I did that a few times. It's interesting because a good teacher, or what makes the class good, is really the flow throughout the class from beginning to end, and how smooth the transition is, like how well thought out the exercise are from like the first one to the last one, how they start the class, how they end the class. And it's interesting because you would think like, well, just to be a good teacher, you have to know like all of the technical, like what muscles was this, was that. But it's not really just that. It's much more about, again, like being thoughtful and being a good orchestrator. And I think it's very
It's a performance.
It's a performance.
I mean, it's a performance where you are the writer, you are the actor, and you're the director and your own coach and all these things. It's not easy. It's not for everybody, for sure. It's a different skill set. It's a different communication skill set. It's a different
and there is different
performance skill
styles
set.
too. You know,
sure.
Like you could see, like, you know, the ones who don't know what they're doing. You could see the ones that are only interested in, like, I don't know, just like exhausting you the whole time. You know, there's some that are much more like thoughtful and want to go incrementally. You know, like, yeah, it's very interesting. But I mean, I would be down to go back to you know, something like that.
Group stuff. Classes.
Yeah, I mean, classes would be cool. You know, it's just a matter of like time and money and
It's
find a
time.
spot.
There's no time. I don't know. It's
because what's good about the class, what I like about the class is that you sign up for, you know, you pay for it, so you have to show up.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just money down the drain. So it makes you accountable, and I don't know. It's and there is someone kind of like watching you and telling you what to do. So you have to do it. But yeah, you know, looking back, I'm like, how did I do that in New York? How did I wake up at like 4:30 in the morning, hop on the subway at 5, went for like a 45-minute workout, and then like went to work? I'm like, what?
Yeah, it's kind of
now
crazy.
I have a gym in the place we live in, and I don't ever go.
It's different. It's different. I mean, you could obviously make time now, but the priorities are just. I think it's easier to do that stuff when your life is much more partitioned, work versus life balance. You know.
But I think also now that we have a kid, I'm like, I don't want to spend the time when my kid is awake because he's that young and changing so much at the gym. So I would feel better going only when he's asleep.
Yeah.
So that means, well, I have to wake up before he wakes up at 6 in the morning to go and do that. I don't want to wake up at 4:30 in the morning to go to the gym. Or I have to go after he goes to bed, which is also my end of day, and I'm tired.
Yeah.
And I also need to go to bed early now. So it's kind of like...
I don't know.
I mean, people, you know, buy treadmills and things they put in front of their computer, and which I'm like, how can you be productive? There is no way you can be walking and typing an email that makes sense, or like for us, for example, doing creative work. Like you can't have your brain be good and 100% in both of the things you're doing at the same time.
I mean, I feel like if it's like phone calls, you could do in a walk.
Yeah.
You know, so maybe in a certain way. Writing an email, you could get used to it. I've always, it makes sense. Like, you know, if you're going to be stuck at a station, which is unnatural, right? Then you would have a device that allows you to move and walk and stuff. But it does feel very. I've been in some offices where they have. No, did they have that? No, they didn't have that. But they had standing desks for some of the people. Again, it makes sense, but. It's weird.
I mean,
what are you doing standing up, you weirdo?
I had a like standing desk for a while, and It was cool. And if you have like back pain, like, you know, and you feel better standing than sitting, like you can stand and work. Mm-hmm. It's just at some point you want to sit.
I mean, it's probably good if you don't have to do it all day, but just like a release. My watch goes off all the time saying like, time to stand up.
You know, it's your back, but it's also like your shoulders going up because you're leaning your arms on the desk and all that stuff.
Well, I had everyone has back problems, but I had some back problems that were lower back that was bothering me when we were. This was years ago now. Working and a lot of time spent at the computer.
Yeah.
These days it's different because I'm out and around meeting people all the time. But I was at my desk for long days working, as most architects do, and my lower back started to bother me, and then my left leg, my left like butt also like would feel numb or be weird pain, not like normal muscle ache pain, but like something off. So so I go to see this doctor, and he's like, "Yes, because you're sitting." I'm like, I don't know, but it's this and that. He's like, no, it's because you're sitting too much and you don't have good posture and you don't do enough. Well, all the typical stuff. And of course, and I'm like, oh, okay. He's like, I'm going to butcher the factor that he gave me, but it was something like there's a group of people in some more, I don't know what's the correct political term, native kind of territory where they're carrying big boulders and carrying, sacks of potatoes or whatever they're doing, and they're walking around all day, which is hard physical labor. He's like, those people in that population, and but there are doctors around and stuff, zero back problems. All the back problems, lower back problems, occur in a large section of the population in the modern territories where people are sitting at their desks all day. He's like, that's the problem. So he's like, okay, you should get a butt cushion to sit different. Like, show me how you sit. Okay, your leg is always kind of out. I'm like, they always have this leg out because it's comfortable. He's like, yeah, don't do that. It's throwing your alignment off and whatever. And I ended up, I think I did some PT. I messed up my foot. So then I had like an orthotic. I did like a bunch of stuff and it helped. But it's weird ever since that became an issue, and it persisted for like months and probably like years. And you just kind of ignore it because you get used to it. But now that I don't do a lot of exercising, anytime we do like long road trips, long meaning just a few hours of driving, which is not that long, everything hurts. And it's kind of pathetic. That's the word. Like we drove to the Bay Area recently, and it's like a 6-hour, with a kid it's different, but 7-hour journey, whatever. And we used to be able to do that trip almost a straight shot, one stop, no problems or no significant problems with the back. But now it's like 2 hours of sitting, and I can't. I mean, I can't.
Enough. My knees hurt. It's not even my lower back that hurts. It's my knees.
Your knees?
Yeah. It's weird, right?
What's wrong with your knees? Got to get some new knees. You got to go.
I wonder at the end of my life, like how many.
I'm gonna crack this window. It's
how many implants and pieces of things I would have to fix my body.
Well,
I'm gonna get new hips. I'm gonna get new knees. I already have new teeth. I already have a new back.
You could just follow Brian Johnson.
I started actually following him on Instagram.
We watched.
Strange person.
So anyone who doesn't know, Brian Johnson is the name of this wealthy individual who, the headline is just spending millions of dollars a year to try and live forever. That's like his thing. And his background was in a couple different businesses. I think tech businesses. Like once he did something with Venmo, or he bought Venmo or something. I don't know, whatever it was.
I think he sold his company.
Then he sold it, and then this and that, and did that whole CEO tech thing. Made a bunch of money, wrecked his health during that process. A lot of other personal bad stuff happened to him. And then he had a life change. It was like, I'm going to go on a new quest. And my new quest is, what can I do to the maximum extreme? Because he has all this money, extreme level, to try and be as healthy as humanly possible. Like the most healthiest human in the history of ever. And the objective is to live forever. And anyway, so we watched the Netflix documentary, which I think is called "Don't Die." That's one of his slogans, which I find I think it's so funny, but so smart and clever. I love it. I think it's great.
I just find it so basic and stupid.
I think it's great. That's why it's.
I think it makes sense, but it's kind of like, again, that's what a kid would say. You know? But anyway.
So we watched the documentary, and I had been aware of him every now and then, like on social media and Instagram and whatnot. And the documentary, apparently, I remember seeing a reel of him when it came out, and he was saying, like, he participated, obviously, because it's all about him. But he's like, I had no creative input or control or reviewing of this thing. So whatever it is what it's going to be, which, if true, I felt was a very mature way to do it. An honest way. But it's a really, really fascinating thing. One of the aspects of it that surprised me, though, was like how much hate he's gotten and still receives from random people for what he's trying to do. And it baffles me as to how really anybody can have beef with him, aside from those close to him who might have personal relationships. That's a different thing. But like the general public, what is your problem? Why do you have something against this individual? It's very odd to me. I
mean, I think anytime you put yourself out there, you do something different, like you're gonna get a bunch of haters.
True. That's absolutely true. But like,
it's actually sad. Not so much that he's getting hate for what he's doing. It's sad that that's how people react to other people, and it's sad to notice how many people out there are actually sad people.
I mean, they must be if they are only.
If that's your reaction to someone who's like doing whatever they want to do with their money and using themselves and their life as a science experiment, then why do you care?
I don't know.
I don't know. Is he buying all the pills in your CVS next door and that's why you're pissed? No, then move on. Let him do his thing. And you might learn something from, the time and money he's investing in whatever he's trying to do. So,
it's free knowledge,
I don't know.
Well, I think part of it is that he's wealthy. And so automatically you have a lot of enemies when you're wealthy. Because anyone who's not wealthy they're just upset with anything you do because you're wealthy.
That's true. Or people are like, well, why would you spend money doing that? You could spend money like helping people or doing better things. So.
But I don't agree with that, because you can't tell people what to do with their money. If they're doing harm with their money, then you have a right to say something. But if they're just spending money to improve themselves and giving that knowledge out there for free, like, it's a win-win. Like, what?
I know. I know. Be upset at other people.
Go make your own money, then donate it if you want to do that.
The interesting thing, though, so they showed a few pictures of and videos of him before he started this whole, what is it called? Blueprint or whatever?
Blueprint is the name of the project, which is him trying to live forever.
And he looked so different.
Yeah.
And actually, I have to say, I'm not sure he looks better now.
He's kind of a strange-looking fellow, but I don't know if that
he kind of has an alien body or a feeling now. You know? And I think it's also because of his, mentally, he seems to be in a different place, like a much higher mental state, than probably he was before.
Yeah.
And I don't know, there is something weird about him physically, but also the whole aura, the whole person, and it's like he I don't know, he found God, or he became a god, or something.
Yeah.
Which is interesting, because it actually makes you think that people can physically change, like weight loss and being healthier and all of that, but people can also mentally change. And it's interesting because I'm just kind of thinking out loud right now, but a lot of society, especially now, there is a lot of emphasis on body change and getting healthier, getting more muscular and all of that stuff. And it's kind of I think it was a trend. I think now it's becoming the norm, which is a good thing, right? But I think the next thing is how to apply that trend to our mental state and how to become more mentally healthy and change and become better people. There is a pretty good understanding that, okay, well, if you're fat, you have too much weight, it's not healthy, it's not good for you, you're doing yourself harm, or you're not helping yourself,
or
right?
If you're smoking,
or you're smoking, or you're drinking, or you're not sleeping, or you're doing all kinds of bad things to your body.
Yeah.
But I think the next big thing to tackle would be mental health, and not just in the sense of go do yoga 3 times a week, or maybe talk to a therapist, but And maybe the two are linked, actually, and maybe the emphasis shouldn't just be on like getting abs and losing weight. It should be about getting abs, losing weight, and becoming a happier person and a better person, you know.
That's interesting. I mean, the mental health awareness has definitely risen in the last 15
for sure.
to 10 years, maybe even 10 years. But it's an interesting point, though, that like, and so is the physical, you know, aspects of the body, but the physical exercise and that physical well-being is also visual.
It's
like
visual,
you gain
and
something
you can measure
from
it.
Yeah, and you can gain something from it because people see you, and it's desirable to be in shape. So there's this kind of like, there's this overlap between doing it for health reasons, doing it for your own mental well-being, because there's of course benefits in that regard, but also frankly you're going to look good and people will find you more desirable, either from a, you know, sex appeal standpoint, or even in just common relationships. It's, I don't know, people find it generally nicer to be around folks who are very fit and healthy looking. It's like, oh, you have your shit together, you might be more organized, I don't know, whatever the things people dream of, right? And you know, that's probably a significant reason why it's so easily become a focus more so than it once was. Because there were definitely fitness fanatics years ago, but they didn't catch on until now. And I think it's now because everyone's showing more skin. But the mental health aspect is not really, I don't know.
Well, I think also because there is,
you're not going to get more likes because of that. You know what I mean? You can't show off your brain.
Yeah, but
you
I
can't
mean,
post a picture of your abs.
But that's the problem of the time we live in, is that it's all about the image. It's all about like, what can you show to people, rather than like looking at the bigger picture, like what can you build, you know, throughout your lives and your relationship, right? Like he became this, I don't know, guru guy. He's inspiring a lot of people. He's getting attention. He's doing good, you know, in a way. And I think a lot of things are coming from him being that kind of person. And that's something that, I don't know, we should all thrive on doing. Yeah. You know, but I don't know.
Well, I mean, the practicality is challenging because it's time. And of course, he doesn't expect anyone to really do what he's doing to that degree, because it's not accessible for most people. And that's one of the main criticisms of him and what he's doing. Is like, well, this is a waste of time because no one can do what you're doing. That is, and it annoys me when I hear.
But it's also a very self-centered way of looking at things. It's like, well, he's not asking you to do that.
Yeah, no, that's true, but that's true. And it's also just like the logic of a 10-year-old or a 9-year-old, because it's also well known that the way everything works, anything new, the way it happens and the way it's adopted and changes society, is there's an outlier. That outlier is because they're a wacko, a weirdo, or they have more money than someone else, or they have a different set of whatever it is, they're an outlier. That no one else can have that experience, partake in what they're doing, they're an outlier. But it trickles down or across or through everything else and eventually becomes more mainstream. That's the way it works. Yeah. So the idea that someone would have beef with Brian Johnson because of that, it's like, okay, well, you have a beef with everything else? Fashion, cars, architecture, food, everything is done that way, right? Yeah. There's fashion runway stuff. That stuff seems weird to us. It bleeds into mainstream fashion at some point in some manner. Architecture, you know, crazy architecture, that bleeds over in some way. The food, it bleeds over in some. It all bleeds over. So it's a completely invalid, you know, critique of him. It's not. I don't know. It's. So anyway, I got annoyed. I'm like, what's wrong with you people? And he's not doing any harm to you. And then people were upset because now, or the last year, I don't know when the timeline is. He. So first he started to do this stuff, then he decided to like make a blog or whatever and post it out there. Then he was posting links to people for people to buy the products because either he wanted to do that or people were asking. It's probably both. Yeah. Posted links, and they're Amazon affiliate links, so people would click on it and then buy the stuff. And it's funny, he was saying, because like kind of overnight all of those supplements would disappear, and even he's like, I had a hard time getting them because all these people were buying them. And of course, he makes money off of those clicks. And people were upset by that. I'm like, why are you upset by that?
Every single person you see telling you about products on TikTok and Instagram is doing the exact same thing.
They're all doing that. And also, he again is using himself as a guinea pig to give you free, potentially helpful information. Take it or leave it. If he gets a tiny commission off of your buying pills that are $30 a jar, $15 a jar, I mean, in some way, it's well earned in his case, right? He's not, even more so, because a lot of people who do affiliate links, it's like random. They don't really do research. In his case, it seems to be, he claims that he's doing all this research, and a lot of people, it seems to be true. So I'm like, what? So he shouldn't get compensated a few cents for every this and that because he's already wealthy? That's not fair. Yeah. Like, what do people want? Like, it's like, you want more? Like, what is it? I think it's just they're upset with their own situation and they just want to cast blame on others or something. But,
yeah, I think so.
Right? I mean, I don't know. He is an odd-looking, the aura,
specimen.
An odd-looking fella. But like, so what? You know what I mean? Like, who cares?
It might be because his skin's really pale. It doesn't help him.
He's pale. He's like super shredded. He has a pretty, cut face.
Yeah.
And he does have a certain way of speaking, and like he has perfect posture, so it's a bit alien-like, but whatever. It's not doing any harm. Seems like a fairly reasonable person, and what he's doing at least. I think the part of the documentary I found interesting too was the more personal story behind him and what he's gone through, which we're not going to get to out here, but I thought that was interesting, and I felt like it was a good choice from the film creator's part, because it humanizes it and gives reasoning behind what he's doing. It reminds me, do you remember the film The Inconvenient Truth by Al Gore back in, I don't know, 2005?
Wow, you're asking me to remember movies?
But it was a documentary, and he was a presidential candidate.
I vaguely remember it, yeah.
Yeah, and the thing was about global warming.
Wasn't that involving George W. Bush?
No, Al Gore is the one who started it, I guess. I mean, he was just narrating and then did some presentation stuff. And it's funny because...
it was done by this disruptive filmmaker or some guy. I remember the press.
I don't know about the filmmaker. I just remember Al Gore, his name. But anyway, when it came out, it was... Looking back, it was sort of like one of the, maybe the first or one of the most significant, widely publicized pieces of media that covered global warming as like a topic. And as you can imagine, it was, some people thought it was great. Some people like absolutely hated it because they don't believe in global warming. Those people probably still don't believe in global warming. And those people are probably fascists now. I don't know like what's going on exactly. But when it came out, part of that film, it was filled with facts, of course, but also maybe based on my memory, which is hazy, 30% of the film, and kind of relates throughout it, was his personal story and why this means so much to him, and some of his backstory, just like same thing with the Brian Johnson documentary. And I remember some people were like not happy with that aspect of it. They're like, he should have just focused on the facts, so to speak, and this narrative about him is just it's not necessary, and or it's distracting, and or it's him trying to get sympathy from the audience, and or this and that. And I always found that type of reaction to that aspect of the film to be odd. I'm like, but it's not doing any harm. And I never got the impression it was seeking like sympathy, because that wasn't a big part of the film. I'm like, it's just first of all, it's one human being who's spearheading a larger issue we should all be concerned with. So first of all, kudos to them. And they're going to do it on more or less on their own, narrate the thing, be in it, probably write it, I don't know, whatever else he did. And they felt it was important to express their personal stories to how it overlaps with this topic. I don't see any problem with that. And it was odd to me that people... I remember talking to some folks and they're like very so dismissive of that. I'm like, seriously? Well, then you go fucking make a film. I don't know. Like, what do you want from people? Right? The people out there doing the thing, trying to do the thing, and it was well done for the most part. And we're just gonna bitch about it. I mean, we complain a lot about other buildings that we see, but let's be honest, those buildings are atrocious, so they deserve.
They are shit.
But you know what I mean? Like,
I mean,
and it's a voluntary thing. It didn't have to do it. He wasn't it's not like he was hired by a client to design a house. Like, he just chose to do this thing.
Yeah, the thing too that people don't think when they react that way, especially, is that what they're saying doesn't have as much impact to the person they're saying it to as what that person is trying to communicate to them.
Repeat that.
I'm trying to think about it.
Yeah.
You know, people who complain about like what Brian Johnson is, and they leave a shitty comment on like one of his page or something.
Yeah.
That tiny comment doesn't have as much impact as what he's trying to do with his project. So it's like the guy's trying to lift a giant rock, and you're throwing a pebble at him.
Right.
Like.
So what does that mean, though?
Well, that just means a waste of time. The guy is busy dealing with bigger things than shooting back at pebbles.
Yeah.
You know, little gravels.
Yeah.
Like, keep your crumbs. Like, if you're gonna, like, what is the point throwing crumbs at people? Like,
it's a good question. I don't think there's a good answer.
No, and I think people, you know, honestly, people use all the social media platform and find on purpose things they don't agree or they can hate on as some sort of like sadomasochist therapy way of dealing with their issues, and it's like, it's not healthy. And I don't think, like, you know, like polluting those platforms with that kind of reaction and content is healthy for the person putting that out there, or is healthy for anyone reading it.
No, it's poisonous.
So it's like,
yeah,
your contribution to this planet at this time is poisonous. Like, I don't know, you're like one of those mushrooms that you want to step on and make disappear. And I mean, I don't know. And you want people to think about you that way? Like, it's not going to help you.
It's a weird thing. We've talked about it before, but, you know, people behave differently in social media than they do in real life. But there's some people who also behave that way in real life, and then you just walk away from them.
Yeah.
Whether they be professional relationships or personal relationships, you just stop being around them.
Yeah.
Because what are their choices? You try and fix them? No, not my job, not my time. They don't even understand. They're blind. So I'll just walk away.
No, and if you're a person who's not, you know, trying to do anything with their life, then maybe you just, you know, you actually like engage in those things, because that's all you have to do with your life is that.
Well, but that goes
if you
back to
have bigger things to do, like lifting that fucking rock, you're not gonna bother.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It goes back to the pebble versus rock analogy. What amazes me too is that when people behave that way, online or offline, there's a complete lack of larger perspective of like the situation. They don't have. It's like these people almost don't have the ability to fly up to 30,000 feet in the air, as one would say, and get the what do they say? Not high level, airplane level, bird's eye. Yeah, you know, bird's eye, fly by 30,000 feet in the air, airplane view of the situation. That they don't have. It would seem to be that they don't have that capacity, and so they're down in like ants, doing ant stuff and bickering with other ants, and meanwhile, you know, one of the other ants in this case is like, why don't you gain some perspective, dude? Chill out. And I don't know. I don't know what it is. Well,
I do believe that there is probably some different layers of evolution amongst, you know, other people around us. There's the people that were able to, you know, evolve a little bit higher level than, you know, others. And I'm not saying that everybody should evolve to the maximum level of evolution right now, although that would be fucking amazing, because then that means that we would all, again, just be like smarter and do a bunch of things.
Yeah.
But I do feel like, and that's probably where the friction happens, is because you have different level of evolution amongst the people, and some of them just don't understand. You know, like say Brian Johnson is at level 4 of evolution, and the average man is at level 1. Well, it's like it's like when you're trying to play.
You mean physically or mentally?
Mentally.
Okay.
Right?
In the maturity sense.
In the maturity, in the way of thinking about life and what you're doing, and like like a lot, like everything.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Not like physically. Physically, it's like a whole other thing.
Physically, like, he's like a 10
it's like
out
a
of...
level...
he's like 100
10.
out of 10.
But, you know, it's like if you're at level 1, I would not expect you to be able to play level 4 of a video game, right? Because you have 3 levels you have to make it through before you can get to that level, understand how that level works, and be good at it. So if that's the case, you can't blame level 4 for being a level 4. You know, like, you have to understand that maybe they're just doing something that you can't understand and you don't agree with. And it doesn't mean it's a bad thing. It just means that they're in a different place than you are.
I mean, I think that's it's an interesting analogy. I would say for the level 1 player, you know, it's perfectly fine to engage with those that are, quote, above you for curiosity and for education. But I think the critique here is that those people, they just throw stones. It's like, why are you throwing stones upward, to be honest, or throwing stones at all? Like, what are you doing? And I think when I do firmly believe that when the stakes are higher, or the boulder is bigger, it changes your perspective on things. When the problems you have to deal with are larger, more significant, there's more at stake, and there's more of them, and they're more complex. You have to, by necessity, for the sake of survival, operate mentally at a certain level, both logically, your ability to process information, your ability to control emotion, and your ability to communicate with others and to think about other people's positions. You have to. It doesn't work otherwise, right? And I think that's one of the things, too, that when you're a small business owner or a business owner or a project leader or even just an architect who's doing all the architecture, not pigeonholed to drawing bathrooms, you have to, that skill set is baked into you. And I know you don't want to talk about architecture, but I think architects have that diverse skill set to produce architecture.
You have to.
Within, if they're at their desk, within the realm, there's a high level problem solving in the space of, like, the architecture itself, meaning building, construction, design, and all that kind of stuff. Where some architects lack is, like, the social aspects. But then when you become a project manager, a person who's dealing with clients all the time, a person who's getting clients, then you evolve to becoming to have that kind of skill set too. But across the board, my point is that, I think you're right. When you have that as the thing that you're in, and you have to navigate it successfully to survive, there's no choice but to behave and operate a certain way. Yeah. And then when you have people who have pebbles around them, who are complaining about stuff or throwing pebbles, it's like, don't throw pebbles at me.
I know, it's childish.
You don't really have, what problems do you have? No. And it's the same, and the social media just allows this kind of, again, this protection filter. But in real life, people do that. And so what happens to those people when they're around the level 4? Level 4, do they just walk away? No.
Because level 4 is too busy trying to get to level 5.
Yeah, or surviving at level 4.
Or surviving at level 4.
Dealing with, like, cannon fodder people. I don't give, I call them guppy people. I call them fish food. That's what I call these people, fish food. And I say that because they're not even guppies, they're guppy food. They're nothing to me.
They've been made into little flakes. Okay, so that
you
was
mean nothing to me. You're fish food.
So we went from the sound bath to fish food. The other thing I wanted to talk about in this, and I just thought about kind of like switching gear here, is the documentary we watched about Led Zeppelin.
Oh, yeah. That was super interesting.
And it's just a happier note to move on to rather than going down the rabbit hole.
Anyone who has good documentary suggestions, you should text us that or DM us that.
Yeah, actually, that would be that would be great.
Yeah. 213-222-6955.
I was going to say. But yeah, we watched the documentary Led Zeppelin, and I actually watched it, I think, in one of our plane ride. Maybe it was back from New York or something. And, I'm always interested to know who the people are behind the things that, you like, you listen to, you buy or whatever, just to understand, like, who's the maker behind things. And it's funny because I don't think I actually knew what Led Zeppelin looked like. I know most of their songs. I've listened to them many times, but I have no idea what they look like.
Yeah.
And also, I don't have no idea what they look like now.
Yeah.
Or what they look like 50 years ago.
Yeah, you didn't know it was 4 Japanese guys, huh? That was a surprise. Wouldn't that be a surprise?
People are going to look it up and be like, what?
Off the stage, they have like strong Japanese accents. They speak only Japanese except for when they're singing.
And now a little break for our show sponsors. Are you tired of juggling multiple pieces of software and struggling with spreadsheets that aren't made for the realities of design and architecture in 2023? Built by and for designers and architects, Programma's all-in-one suite of tools has everything modern studios need for every stage of a project. Mood boards, the world's best specification tools, procurement tracking, project management, and more. All smartly integrated, easily shareable, and always up-to-date, reducing time-consuming double handling and costly errors. Share your work in various formats, from PDF to client-friendly, up-to-date online dashboards. Join the ranks of leading studios using Programma today. Click the Programma link in our show notes to start for free. Yeah, I mean, it's always very interesting to see like how a band like got, to be like one of the few bands that people know in like, the Western societies or whatever. And I don't think I knew anything at all about Led Zeppelin. I mean, like the Beatles, everybody knows little bits of information about them and this and that. But Led Zeppelin, like, absolutely not. So it's very interesting because it also seemed like that their band kind of happened as a happy accident of this guy meeting that guy in that place, like calling this other guy later on because they needed someone. And it was kind of like, it wasn't... it's almost like, I don't know, if you start a business and you just kind of like, puts in here, puts in there, and like someday, like, like the stars align and like shit happens and you become famous. Mm-hmm. And in their sense, I feel like it was not just luck because most of them seem extremely talented to like genius level. So it was meant to happen at some point in their life, probably.
Fate.
Fate, exactly.
Luck and fate share the same side of the coin, though.
Yeah, no, that's true. But it's very interesting. Like, you could imagine, I don't know, if that one guy didn't pick up the phone that day, then that whole life and time in their life would have never happened. It was very, I don't know, crazy. It was funny because it wasn't like, a teenage group of friends who used to like practice music in the garage and they kind of like took their first single to some place and like, made a hit. Like, it was fairly young adults, but they were each, kind of doing their thing and met doing that band. And I don't know, I think it actually made me appreciate their music even more, knowing how it all kind of like came together.
I feel like a lot of groups happen that way, though. Like, we watched that documentary about the Beatles. I think there was two that we watched. But one, I think, was on Hulu, and it was done by the guy who did Lord of the Rings. I'm forgetting his name. Peter Jackson. I think he did it. Remember, it was like a 3-hour-long
I remember watching
about Abbey Road and the band breaking apart.
Oh, yeah.
And there was a different one with Paul McCartney. That's and Rick Rubin. But I feel like the Beatles also... my memory is hazy, but I think John and Paul, I think they met pretty early on. But yeah, it's like kind of random bouncing around connections. And maybe that's the nature of the music industry at that time or now, because you're just here or there, you need this person, and someone says, oh, this person's cool, you should check them out for sure. Okay, fine, come in and you do a session.
I mean, if you think about it too, like if they're looking for a specific fit, let's say like the band is like technically started by like, 2 out of the 4 guys or 2 out of the 5 guys. And they're looking for like a specific kind of bass player, a specific guitarist, a specific... It would make sense that they wouldn't go necessarily with the one guy that they know. Like they would not interview, but kind of like be selective as to who should join it to take the music to be a certain thing.
Let's say there's the first person, and they're looking for a bassist, and someone says, "Hey, Greg, you got to check out this bassist. They're amazing. Do a session with them, like meet and just do a quick, thing." And how many times did that happen before
they found the right
one?
That's true.
Like how many misfires, were there? How many quote interviews that didn't go well?
Yeah.
Because it sounds like in the story that they found that person and that was it. And maybe that's what happened, but maybe also there were like 10 other people who came through, not in a formal sense, but they experienced and they just passed by them. Yeah. I don't know, but the way it's communicated is that there is a kind of looseness to it, and people are just bouncing around and on the road and here and there, and back in that day too, there wasn't smartphones for sure, or cell phones. So it was really just the circumstances of who happened to be there that have a phone line and, all these kinds of the serendipity of it. And of course, it makes me think about architecture and architecture practices. It we're in a creative field, but it's a very formal, business rigid structure, especially when you're interviewing. Let's say, for example, you have, in some cases, you have a very specific role in mind, a specific skill set, a certain age, a certain set of experiences. It's all all six things are locked in.
And there is legalities on how you hire people, how you work with people, versus just come to my house tomorrow and we can play a couple songs and see how it goes and make something together and.
But there's a freedom, right? So we recently interviewed a industrial designer, artist person. And this episode is now coming out for another probably 3 months or so. And there's a looseness to even the way they speak and their life and who they work with. And the people that are in their, so they don't even call it an office, right? Their studio is like a different kind of, not process. Random, but like people with they're people. Like they're actual people that have different sensibilities, different flavors, different backgrounds, and different skill sets and interests. And that's part of the jam session, right? That all fuses together into the thing, whether it be the music or the sculpture or the light that they're designing or whatever else. And I just feel like sometimes I wish that what we were doing in architecture was just more like that. We could just jam and just be free like that. I have theories as to why it's not so much the case, because what we do is not superfluous. It's not art. It's not music. It's a very serious thing. A lot of money, and it is a business. It's more. It's very different than a band, obviously, in a lot of ways, and maybe that's what it is. But I don't know. The other thing that too, we watch these documentaries about the Beatles, Led Zeppelin, or whatever else. It's like, I'm always in the back of my mind, I'm like, but what did you do for money? But
that's the thing that we're describing. I mean, one of I think it was the singer Robert Plant who was saying he was basically homeless for a while.
And also too, sorry, not to derail, they're interviewing them, recently, so they're old. They look nothing like they do.
It took me a minute when we started watching it to understand who was who from the younger times, because I was like,
it's all just hair.
It took me to get familiar with their features and their faces to recognize them younger, but I was like, I don't know which one is which. One of them was saying that he was basically homeless.
He was a wild man.
He was a wild man. What's interesting with that band too is that I feel like it seems like they each manage to maybe get be who they wanted to be within the band.
Yeah.
And take themselves where they wanted to go with the music. The singer seemed to just be true to himself, when he's performing. The guitarist is obviously flying in heaven doing that, the drummer seemed to have a good time too. The bassists too, maybe a bit less, flashy in their style or whatever, and I think that also what makes the music special, and it made me realize when we watched the documentary, is that it also seems like music has evolved in the way that is almost too perfect. Now the way it's made, it's too perfect. It's too curated. It's too edited. It's too manufactured. And back then, not to sound like an old school nostalgic person, but back then it really felt like at least musicians and artists were living their performance.
Right.
It was coming out of their guts, and I don't know, every time could be a different thing. And even on the album, and they were very specific too, as to the album being recorded was what they wanted, and they didn't want to change any of it.
Yeah.
Which I have a lot of respect for, because you have to fight for your creation and make sure that you can still stand by it. So I felt like that was very interesting. But it is true. Anytime you listen to their songs, it feels very raw. It feels like it's like the first time they're playing it, and not the 1,000 times they're playing it and they record it. They finally got to the perfect cut, which feels a bit more like my jam, to be honest.
Well, I think there's definitely artists who are that way now, and some of the big ones are that way. But I think there's so much
crap.
There is, yeah, but there's so many other sounds being produced in the average pop song, or even rock song, that it's not as clean. Like one of the comments said, "Who's the guitarist?"
Oh, I forgot his name.
Not John Paul. Wasn't John Paul the bassist or something?
Yeah, it was the bassist. The name's like John Paul.
I know. So generic.
It's like, I don't know. I mean, Robert Smith, was that better?
Yeah. So Robert Plant's the singer. John Paul was the bassist. And the drummer who passed away a few years ago, I don't remember his name either.
Jimmy Page.
Yeah, Jimmy Page. I think he was so he seemed to be the
mastermind.
Kind of the mastermind. He was the one that had the vision.
Yeah.
And he also seemed to be just
incredibly talented. I mean,
yeah, like genius level, naturally gifted, performing with studio musicians at a young age, which the studio musicians are gnarly people. Like they're the best of the best of the best. But anyway, I think he was the one who said at one point that it was very important in constructing the sound of Led Zeppelin that each or the four people would be heard on their own. Mm-hmm. So when you listen to a song, you can very clearly hear them, and of course everything being melded together. And I think there's that fine balancing act of all of them producing a sound that's cohesive, but still having the components be clearly expressed. And I thought that was a really, really interesting description of their music, and it kind of clicked. I'm like, that's one of the reasons why you guys sound distinct, because it's almost like it's individuals, and you are at times like barely held together, but you are definitely held together, but not nearly as much as other things where everything becomes like mush.
Yeah.
And of course, I jumped to like architecture and design, thinking the same way. But I thought that was really fascinating, like capturing, the essence of that moment. And you said like every performance is slightly different. I don't know, there's something very refreshing and very honest, refreshing now, and very honest about it. And it's exactly what it is. And it happens and then it goes, and then you don't.
And
I don't
think
know.
It makes sense too, because if you are a creative person, especially in the performance, industry, like I feel like not every performance can be the same. Mm-hmm. Like you are creating somewhat a new piece every time. Like it shouldn't be identical. Like, right. I don't know, if you tour every state, you'd you have a concert in every state. Like I don't think that performance should be the same everywhere, right? Like every night is a different crowd, it's a different place. You've been on the road for however many weeks, like you're in a different mindset, you have a different chemistry with maybe the guitarist that day, or like, and I feel like that should be part of it.
It depends on the music you're doing as well. I mean, obviously classical music is all about being
Why not?
as perfect as possible, on repeat. I think also it has to do with skill set, is obviously Led Zeppelin and those kinds of musicians are technically at the very top. But before that level, a lot of the work is trying to build up your technique so you could repeat it almost perfectly if you needed to. And then you have that freedom to improvise, let's say, and to bend the rules, to break the rules. It's actually, in all creative endeavors, it's a interesting thing because you can't do that. You can't bend and break the rules and improvise and be loose and free until you build up the technical knowledge.
Yeah.
And the building of the technical knowledge is, I think, it could be very difficult depending on the person. I don't mean difficult because it takes practice in woodshedding with whatever the craft is. That's true, but I mean difficult because if you're the type of person who naturally just wants to get to that future state of being able to be loose, you also need to be very, very rigorous and disciplined in the, quote, early stages, so which might last years and years and years before you can really do that. And that is a very uncomfortable, those are actually very different things if you think about it, right? And it's potentially a very uncomfortable state to be in for an extended period of time. Woodshedding, whatever it is. And that's one of the things I didn't like about playing music. You're just repeating the same thing over and over and over again. And it's not even songs. You're just doing like arpeggios and exercises.
That's what I think I never got. Well, I never got into it because I had a horrific music teacher in high school that was just traumatizing person that
Oh,
just...
God.
I mean, he would yell at students if you're not playing the notes right. And it's like, well, it doesn't make me enjoy being here. So, I'm going to listen to music, but I don't think I need to learn how to play.
Yeah.
Which is stupid.
Hot cross buns.
No, you would go like individually on the stage, the platform in front of the class and play your bit. And if it was not perfect, he would just like yell at you. And he looked scary. He was scary, man.
No, so, there's
I feel like
that's a terrible band director or music teacher. There is, when you get good enough, then there's things like that where you're put on the spot and it becomes very serious. But like if you're like young,
but it's like an introduction class to music too. So what are you doing? Like you're trying to keep it to yourself. Like what is this? But I was thinking about Led Zeppelin has a very to me specific color to their music, right? It's kind of like super avant-garde. It's kind of hard to even pin up in time because it blends kind of like experimental sounds to like, the sound of the time, and it's very interesting stuff. It made me think about the Pink Floyd, and I was wrong. And the Pink Floyd, I would put them kind of like the same basket. I was wondering if there was a documentary about them because I would also really love to learn more about, their band.
Yeah, that would be fascinating. I'm sure there is. The singer of Led Zeppelin, I mean, it's just crazy. It's like a crazy person, and his range and how he does. It's just crazy.
And his hair. I mean, let's just talk about his hair.
That's what I was saying. Everyone back in the day, it was just hair. You can't tell who was who. Just hair and tight pants. You know what I mean? Like sticks with like big mops on them.
It's funny because it seems like at that time people did not know yet how to deal with curly hair.
That was rock and roll. I mean, there's no controlling of the curly hair. But yes, and then the other kind of contrast is that zoom forward to recent years when they're introing them and they're all, retired and gray-haired and they're old. They're so reserved and they speak. And
they look like very proper men. And
the bassist was a pretty reserved person, on his own right. Jimmy Page was like very... the way he speaks and the way he thinks, and I'm sure it's not just him now, it was probably he was that way back then as well, like very, very conceptual individual, like thinking about it in a theoretical sense and then putting it into practice.
We should invite him on the show.
That was really, though, his whole thing was like, even how he used his hands when he was talking, you could tell he was thinking about how to move these things around and layer these things and to create this effect that he was going for. And so as much as there's this the freedom that you've described, there's definitely a premeditated outcome that he was in search of. And it wasn't just, we'll just do whatever. Like there was something he was trying to find and to execute. And I just of course keep thinking about, I wish just architecture was not so rigid. I don't mean us as an office. I mean just in general. It's just
there's so many components
rigid
in architecture that it's
program and this and that and then that's we got to have that thing and that can't extend too much because of whatever.
It's such a complex.
There's a lot of rules we have to follow.
Yeah, it's I don't know. It's tricky, but yeah, no, it was really good documentary.
Yeah, you watched it twice now.
Yeah, I watched it twice. I watch it again, honestly. I don't know. I wish it was longer. Yeah, it's just very interesting to understand like the process and the thinking and also like kind of like backtracking, the evolution of a band or creative and kind of understand like how things happen in what order and if there was like big moments and what were these moments and when did it happen and why did it happen.
I sometimes wonder if I or we should be just more open to random things happening. And it's also interesting because we've obviously interviewed a lot of people on the show and we more or less talk about their story. And It's not a documentary, but it's kind of like what happened and how did things go and whatever else. And it's like sometimes the most significant things that influence the people we interview influence them in a positive way or set them on a course, or, with collaborators or whatever else, is, again, a product of like, it just happened to be, we crossed paths, and then that seemed to be, it felt right. So we just kind of seized the moment and let's run with it and see what happens. And then the rest just kind of cascades on its own. And, I know I've said this on here before, I'm pretty sure, but it just feels like also it's a lot harder to do now. And I don't want to make excuses, but I think like...
No, I mean, I don't think any bands could do, like, sticking to music. I don't think any bands could do what they did then, now.
Well, you could. It'd just be like you have no, even less security than then. I mean, like then if you really needed to, you could pivot and get a job working at whatever basic place and then have the money to get a house. Now,
I think also there was... I mean, we have new technology, new tools, new this, new that, more knowledge. But I also feel like in those earlier times, there was so much that was to be discovered, experimented with, and kind of like, just things that needed to be brought up to the surface. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, I feel like everything is up to the surface today. So it would be a lot harder because of that. Like, there is already so much out there, so much of everything. We know so much more with, it, in a way, like, we know more, so there is more room to create more things, but also I think not, because I don't know, it limits you in a way, like too much knowledge limits your creativity and your exploration and all of that.
It's a weird, tricky balance, because I feel like seeing more stuff, it can be inspirational, and it's very easy to find that information or references, and then all of it becomes like, oh wow, I didn't think about that before, that's an interesting way to do it, or well, that's like totally different, unrelated to what I'm looking for, but there's something about it that's fascinating. And that accessibility is very, very stimulating. But I also certainly feel what you said of it's like sometimes I don't really care about what's out there, because it just doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel productive. It doesn't feel like it's not satisfying or rewarding. Sometimes I feel like our lives, I'm just like a hard drive, and I'm just constantly taking more information, and I'm seeing more information, but I'm also like, okay, another gigabyte. Okay, I only have like 50 gigabytes left. Another, and it's just like more. And it's not nourishing at all. You know what I mean? Yeah. It doesn't feel nourishing.
No, and I think it's just, we end up consuming that information, but it doesn't really stay. I mean, it's like, you eat food, you go to the bathroom, 2 hours later, it's gone, right? And maybe you get some nutrients from it, maybe you get some fat or whatever from it, but that's it. But I feel like we just consume giant amount of knowledge and everything, but you don't feel full. You don't feel, sustained by that. So
I mean, the most nourishing part about what we do is not that aspect. It's pen to paper, and like that is
it's the actual creative work.
Yeah. I think it's easy to not, how do I phrase it? I think it's easy now to get lost and to not have to find your own path, voice, and thoughts. I think it's easy to get by and not have your own thoughts, because you can just regurgitate what's out there and sort of piece it together, not fully understand it, but it's good enough, right? Superficially, it's good enough. For the general public, it's good enough. No one would know the difference, this kind of thing. And just kind of stitch it together and then just done, then do the next one. But then truly it's, but how are you as a person contributing to the thing that you're making? Whether it be architecture, music, like what is it what do you have to say? Yeah. And I'm not saying that statement you're making or trying to make has to be unique. I think that's too much pressure for anybody, and I don't think that's a good way to look at it. Even for the people who end up creating something unique. I don't think that's necessarily the primary goal. Of course, it's in the back of everyone's mind, because you don't want to be a cliche, but like, I think the calmness, the quietness, to be forced to feel that and to think, okay, well, who am I, and what am I trying to say? What am I trying to do? Like, really, what is it? But given the complexity of my makeup, who I am, where I'm from, and all these things, what is it I'm saying? I think that's very easy to just never really have to, open that door, go through that hall, whatever it is, because you're just taking stuff over there and put that up and take it from left and put it to right, and left to right, left to right.
Now that we are parents too, it makes me wonder, like how simple is a kid's childhood today compared to, like, let's say, our generation. I
mean, it's always the case. You go one generation before us, so it's even simpler. One generation back before them, even simpler. And I don't know.
It's going to be interesting to see, see our kid that grow and like see like what are the things that he's going to be, I don't know, wrestling with or latching on, kind of a little scared of that too, but.
Yeah, I'm not worried. Main thing for me is no iPads. No, thank you. To each their own with their own kid, but I've always found it weird when parents go to restaurants and you see parents. There's like two parents or one parent. There's a couple kids or whatever. Sit down immediately. Here's your iPad with your big, rubber plastic yellow blue handle on it. Here, and then the parents like turn the other way, like backs to the kid practically. Look at the menu, order, and like it's a completely. Like they might as well not even be at the same table. And for sure, I mean, parenting's not easy. You get tired and this and that, and there are moments, but it seems to be like a common practice. And I'm like, how about like they don't have an iPad? How about they just exist as a human, as an animal human on the planet for, an hour? I think that's fine. So anyway, that's my opinion on it, But
I also wonder how school works.
Huh?
I also wonder how schools are working nowadays. If like kids still have to use like pen and paper and like write things by hand, or if it's like or iPad taught thing. Like,
I'm not. There's a convenience factor with some of the technology, but I'm also.
They have plenty of time to. They're gonna have to deal with it like when they're adults. So.
Yeah,
it's not like, I don't know, because they start at a 4-year-old that they're gonna,
I mean, here's the other question too: is all of these things, whether it be for kids or for us as what we do or whatever other scenario, is it actually making anyone happier?
Yeah,
that's like a fundamental question that's been asked many times regarding all technology throughout the ages of mankind, but obviously social media age and internet age is completely different stratosphere from like the Industrial Revolution. And I'm sure many people, the average person would probably be like, 50-50.
Yeah.
Or no, I don't think it's made anyone like legitimately happier, all of us happier. There's conveniences. It's nice to FaceTime people that we were far from, blah, blah, blah. But in the day-to-day, how many minutes there are in a week, what percentage of happiness, level are you across the board because of these things?
Yeah.
I think it's done the opposite, if anything.
Yeah.
And it's the need for, like you were saying, perfection. There seems to be also this need for finding finding like the right answer, the right solution, because we know it's out there on the internet. Like that seems to be the goal, rather than just sitting in silence and just being with one's thoughts. I don't know. Now I sound like I'm some kind of weird Zen monk person, but I just.
Well, we did start with the sound bath conversation.
That's true, but I just think like that's. I find it odd if a person's not able to just be like that. Or like do that in their own method of socializing with other people as an extrovert. I don't know why we constantly need to have answers to everything. It's odd.
Makes me think that I was born in the wrong era.
I've said that. Yeah, go ahead.
I should have been born during the Led Zeppelin time. Honestly, like all of the like great rock band, like all of the time of like freedom and expression and like trying stuff out and making mistakes, and I don't know, I mean, I'm sure it was, tough back then, with all the things that happened politically and all of that. I'm sure it was. But at the same time, I also feel like people were maybe living a bit more than they are today, and enjoying things that were much simpler.
Mm-hmm.
That, I don't know, we don't right now.
Well,
Sounds
first
so
of all,
pessimistic,
I've also said many times, or thought, that I feel like I should have been around more like the 60s and 70s. What's that? But the reality is, no, not as an Asian person, not as a Chinese person. Did Chinese people exist in the United States, on the coasts at that time and enjoy life? Yeah, of course. Was it much more difficult than it is now? Yeah, I don't want to experience that.
Well, in your case, yeah, it would have sucked.
In
my case, I'm just a woman, so I would have been a bit less things I would have been able to do, I guess. Probably.
I mean,
not
there's
an
a lot of
architect.
things about 5 decades ago that weren't really as good as now, like for sure.
Although we seem to be going backwards, so
we're quickly going backwards. We're already backwards, but I think also, but you are right in a certain way, and I feel like now, I saw a clip from a movie. I don't know what movie it is, and it's a fiction movie, so it's not to be taken too seriously. But it takes place in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and there's a salesman, in kind of this western town in the United States, and he's like selling a refrigerator or a washing machine, something like this, some appliance. And there's a crowd of mostly women around him because they're at home mostly. And he's saying, "This is so convenient. You can put your clothes in there, wash it for you, and you can do other things and enjoy life." And then in the background, there's
the idea of people designing things to men, to make women's work at home easier is so freaking.
So what?
It's just like. Why were women the one doing laundry back then anyway?
Because because at that time that was the case, and the guys were the one working. I know,
but it is so weird to think that it was the case.
It's still the case, probably more so than the other way.
So, I know, but it is so weird.
I mean, there's also reason for it, right? I mean, they're child care. They take care of the kids mostly, which also somewhat makes sense. I mean, they pop out a kid if.
That's true, but it's I don't know.
Anyway, my point was that. So the scene was that this guy's selling a clothes washing machine, and the women are like, "Oh, interesting," And then there's other people in the kind of back of the crowd that are voicing their concerns, and there's a guy saying "How do we power that machine?" And the guy's like, "Well, it's with electricity. So you can pay and you buy electricity from my other company or whatever it was, and you have electricity. You can have the lights on all night. You can do your clothes washing automatically, and you have all this time now with the electricity and a washing machine." And the guy in the background was like, "Okay, but so now we have to pay for this electricity every month or whatever it is. So now we have to work more to pay for this to have more free time." And the point that gentleman was making is that, yes, this thing would give us free time, but now we become enslaved to it because now we're hooked. Yeah. Now we have to constantly be working and been paying more, and our monthly bills are just there always.
And that's what the whole system we're in is. It's like you spend your whole life working to retire, to have free time.
Yeah. Yeah. And
when you're old.
The general monthly expenses to exist as a middle class family now is
it's insane.
It's a long list of things. Yeah. And I say middle class because of course could everyone get by without a washing machine, without a dishwasher, without Netflix, without you could, but relative to where we are now, I don't think that's an appropriate answer or response. But well, you could cut all that stuff out and you'd be fine. Well, okay, yeah, but then you're not living a normal middle class life like everyone else in this context of today. So, but I thought that was interesting because like you said, it's just hyper, right? It's to the max, and it's going to, and it just feels like it's going more and more and more and more up. And this kind of idea of the rat race is just increased exponentially. At the same time, I always have a tendency to end these recordings with this.
Very sad note. Yeah.
At the same time, we have this the gap between the wealthy and the not wealthy is astronomically large. And like every day, it's wider and wider and wider and wider until it's like completely off the charts. And so it's
actually,
like all these people were just stuck. Like that's so. Just real quick, that's what I was saying before. Like the situation now for millennials and younger, it's a different ball game, right? Because one, we have to do everyone has to do so much work and so much commitment just to exist, like paying for electricity in the washing machine. At the same time, it's kind of a dead end if you're just working like a normal job, because that middle class is disappearing and the upper class, the ultra wealthy, is so way high up that on this chart, the middle class is now the lower class. So it's really like this freedom, this more carefree, feeling of being able to bounce around and do this and that existed before. Yes, because those people were courageous and they took risks, but also there was a safety net that was understood across society. Like you could go get a job that you hated as an accountant or whatever thing and be okay, buy a house, raise kids, send them to school, all this stuff. That doesn't exist anymore. Again, this also came up because recently I was talking to an elder architect, and they're like, well, all of us are doing okay as architects. I'm like, bro, you're at the end of your career. You did fine because you're in a different generation, right? You have your 401k, you have your whatever that's going to be set up, hopefully, with all how things are going. Everyone that's like our generation younger, there's none of that. There's no security. So even if we're like highly educated, which I would say is in the same category of like having to pay for electricity, that you're part of that system, there's no freedom to be like, I'm gonna like just wing it and see what happens.
I was actually, I'm always thinking in my brain like the U.S. versus France as a, I don't know, check and balances, I guess. I don't know if it is the same situation over in Europe with the middle class disappearing and kind of like that gap becoming bigger, or if that is something that is very much so present in this economy here. Mm-hmm. And I haven't been working or living in France to be knowing enough of what's happening there. My parents are retired, so they might know, but I don't really have an answer. I would be interested to find out if it's like globally like that, or if it's because the way things are structured here that's causing that.
I think it's worse here because we are a true capitalist society. That can be defined in different ways, but we've let it run rampant. That's like the most important thing here above anything else. In contrast, let's say China, for example. And I'm only picking China because I happened to also see a news clip. Like, so I think it was some high-up attorney in China. Maybe he worked for the government, maybe not. I don't know. Someone smart and seemed to understand what they were saying. Was saying, like, that's the big difference between China and the United States. The United States, it's money. That's what matters above everything else. Mm-hmm. In China, it's the government. Money doesn't buy you power in the government in China. The government's the government. And fuck you if you have money and you're not doing what we like. I don't care if you have money. For the most part. Mm-hmm. I'm not advocating for a communist society necessarily, but
but it's true. Maybe capitalism is
it's out of control.
It's eating itself,
Oh, it's so out of control. I saw a clip of I think he's a Democrat politician in Texas, and he was just a super smart guy, well spoken, clear, knows his facts, and he was stating that most people don't know this, but in Texas, there are literally just two billionaires, and he named them. I forget their names. There's something generic like Dan and Jeff. These 2 billionaires in Texas, they basically run the state. Mm. They are so wealthy as billionaires and so well connected that all of the policy changes that have happened in the recent years, they all stem from them in different ways. All of the politicians, the senator, I don't know, whatever things from Texas, all got funding from these 2 people. So literally, all the stuff you see is coming from them, and they happen to be Christian nationalists, of course. Yeah, so they had this bill or whatever is put forth to have the 10 Commandments hung up in public schools. These types of things, it all traces back to these people. Yeah. The thing is, for the average person, how would any of us ever know this unless you had this individual who was saying this. And how many people are going to see this guy talk?
Yeah.
Not as many as you'd want, probably. He happened to be on the Joe Rogan podcast, which is a huge platform, so that makes a difference. But like, there's all this stuff and these strings that are being pulled that we have no idea about. And because everything is this entity that's owned by another corporation, and there's like, 3 corporations that run everything. It's totally sci-fi territory. It's sad, really, because this idea of democracy and freedom is like, we definitely enjoy many benefits now that did not exist, again, 50 years ago. So there's a strong argument and a true argument to be made that like things are better now. Mm-hmm. Things are expensive, but we do have like medicines that work. Equality is up on the broadest spectrum, but it's also, I think that actually the bigger issue is not even those things. It's the wealthy and not wealthy, and the wealthy pulling the strings. And it's like all not a lie, but it's like, it's kind of a lie. You know what I mean? Like we only have freedoms that they allow.
Yeah.
Because like, again, even separation between state and church, between the government and religion, obviously not if we're putting the 10 Commandments up in public school. And I don't want to get into it, but like other things like that, like obviously not. So I'll dial it back in. So the complacency that I hear sometimes from specifically architects who are older, like, well, we should all be happy because we're making decent money. I'm like, do you understand the larger context that we're in? Like, you'll be okay. You'll be around for the next 50 years, then you're gone.
They don't.
The rest of us, you think, $100,000 a year or whatever the amount is like a lot. And yeah, of course, you're able to live on it. You can buy food. You can go do vacations here and there. But that's soon to get in. If you can't afford a house and you can't afford childcare, you can't afford schools that are good for your kid, you can't afford you're very quickly the next decade not going to be part of this like secure middle class. You're going to be in the lower class. And that's kind of I don't know why we got into this, but like that's like the part of or the reality that some of us have to contend with. And I think we have to be proactive about it.
Well, so I switched gear from what were we talking about to Robert Plant and Led Zeppelin, thinking like let's move on to a high positive, enjoyable note, and you managed to bring it back down even deeper into the rabbit hole. So kudos to you, man. That is a skill.
Okay.
So now, how are you going to bring it back up after this?
Bring it back up.
No.
Bring it back up.
No, I'm not resuscitating what I've been trying to do. No, how do you bring it back up to end it? Because I'm getting a bit sippy here.
Okay. Bring it back up? What can I say? Black Mirror. Ooh.
Oh, no.
What?
No.
That's my version of bringing it up.
No, you just...
Which is basically a TV show about all the things I just described, but in science fiction.
You're just like digging your grave here. No.
What I was going to say, well, we watched the last season, which was really, really good.
I don't know. Honestly, I don't even know that I want to watch anything anymore because everything is just so heavy and sad.
We watched Happy Gilmore too.
That was not funny. I didn't laugh once in that movie.
No,
American
but humor
is like,
poo.
He's like, he's a nice guy, and he always plays those like dumb roles, and I don't know. I don't find the humor funny. Like I don't know if it's a cultural thing or what.
Probably,
but
I get it.
If I want a good laugh, like that's not gonna make me have a good laugh. So yeah, I don't know that I want to watch anything. Black Mirror is good. It's good, but it's so good and so true that it's really like looking into a mirror watching that show.
Yeah.
And I don't know, you see that in the news and then you're like, why we even keep going, like it's not.
Well, I was going to say that one of the things that's really nice about it and I like is the structure of it, that every episode is a little short story and it's very tight. And, there's a nice kind of arc, beginning, middle, and end. And it's like, it doesn't just kind of ramble on. It's very, very, it's very, very tight. That's my...
No, I agree. I think I'm gonna start reading books or something or do sound bath or whatever until somebody comes back with like a rom-com or a comedy show, because I feel like...
Ooh, we should watch Alien Earth.
Is that funny?
It's neither of the things you just mentioned. It is a rom-com, in fact.
Nice. Is it? No. Of course it's not.
Yeah, no, I get it. There are not many comedies and rom-coms, new ones, that are...
No, and it's like, what's
decent.
wrong with you, people? Like, stop making those things that are depressing. Like, just freaking make something that makes people laugh. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's less risky to do things that are depressing than things that make people laugh, because you might not upset as many people if you do that. Like, I don't...
We could watch Mark Maron's latest special, although he basically talks about all the stuff we just talked about.
Yeah, so therefore I don't know if it's really funny. I'm talking about just light, silly humor.
Yeah, no,
like,
I know. I'm trying to think of the last one we watched that was
everything is just so like heavy message, heavy connotation.
Well, that's
heavy
why
position.
we put off watching Black Mirror for like months, because it was just like, I know it's going to be good, but
it was very good, but it's just so intense. And again, like you said, it's like the world is so loud. Like there is no way to just turn it off and have silence. You know, and it's...
And a rom-com is like the equivalent of silence?
Yeah, pretty much. Like, you don't have to use your brain to watch a rom-com.
Yeah. Yeah, so if anyone has any recommendations for recent...
If you have any good rom-com, honestly, in any language...
What?
From anywhere in the world, I don't care.
I don't want to read subtitles.
I would take any good rom-com. That's how desperate I am with it.
Apparently,
anyway.
Parasite was deemed the best movie. What did it say? Last recent period of time, like the last 10 years, 20 years, or 50 years, something significant. By they took a poll of like all these critics and whatever else, and it was the best one. Also, not a rom-com.
That
was a crazy movie.
It's like I went to a new hairdresser a few weeks ago, and I was like, "Oh, yeah, are you watching any like fun, new good TV show?" Because I'm always on the lookout for like new things to watch. Mm-hmm. And he watched the new season of Squid Game. I was like, "What is it about exactly?" Because I know it's violent, but I don't really know much more about that because we haven't watched it. And then he explained the premises, and I was like, "Oh." So I was like, what else do you watch? Oh, a lot of like reality TV. I was like, oh, that's cool. I was like, I can't watch reality TV. Like, it's just, I physically can't. Like, it just, I feel like it's hurting me. So I was like, all right, well, I guess we won't talk about TV stuff because it seems like we have different tastes. So the conversation was pretty flat, but, you know, cordial and kind of rom-com-esque in some ways.
Would you go back to that hairdresser?
Yeah, I mean, I think he did a good job with the cut. I'm not a fan of the color.
When you say in a squeaky voice, that means like you're not really convinced.
Look, the best hairdressers are not in the United States. I'm sorry. They're in Paris.
That's very snobby, but fine.
No, but that's true. I have not... Well, maybe in New York. There was a couple of really good ones in New York. But
expensive.
Well, it's more expensive in LA than you can find in New York. So I don't know, maybe I should have been a hairdresser. I've made way more money than being an architect. You know?
I don't think that's true.
I don't know. Depends on the days.
I guess.
I mean, hairdressers are often booked, 8 hours a day. Yeah. When architects will always have work.
How much? I mean, I don't know. Like, the expensive ones are like hundreds of dollars.
Depending on what you do, it's like $300, $500.
For how long?
For a couple hours, let's say.
I mean, if you're a sole practitioner and you're making that amount of money per hour consistently, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, that's a lot. I mean, it's not, you're not a billionaire.
If you don't pay for the rent of a salon, like you do it from home or you have your own thing, like you can bring in a lot of cash.
I wonder what their the division is, their cut, when they're renting at a place.
I don't know. This specific salon too. Interestingly, they're hired by the brand. So they are employees of the salon. They're not like paying in rent, which is interesting because that's typically how it's done in France. And like the whole like renting your spot in a salon that's not yours is something that I discovered here, and I was like, this is very interesting. But anyway, so that's that. All right, that's it. Ended up on the hairdresser conversation. Not too bad.
Not too bad.
No, not too bad.
It's not exactly like dessert, but it's sort of like...
But it's getting close to it.
Something around that
We're
space.
bringing the spoon,
But what?
We're bringing the spoon.
Spoon for dessert?
For dessert.
I'm hungry.
I'm hungry. All right. Thanks, everybody, for listening to this random episode. It's more of a random rambles than an after hours, I feel like. If you like what we do, please support the show. Follow us on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts. We're on Instagram as well. You can give us a call or send us a text message at the hotline, 213-222-6950. If you have any topics, any new documentaries that you think we should be watching.
Documentaries would be good.
I would rather watch a documentary than a creepy
What about
TV
a
show.
Documentary about like war? Because there's a lot of those.
I love history documentaries too, so I could totally do that.
These seats, man, I don't know how people sit on chairs and seats in an office or for a podcast or at a dinner somewhere when there's no ventilation. You know what I mean? Solid surface.
And you're not a big person, so...
I know, I don't have any cushion, so it becomes uncomfortable. But it's also like there's no ventilation. There's no mesh. There's no nothing. How do people do this? It's very uncomfortable.
Everybody does it every day.
I know, but I don't understand it.
Maybe something's wrong with your butt.
Don't you get hot?
I don't.
Natural ventilation. It's very uncomfortable.
Anyway, thanks everybody for listening, and talk soon.
Bye.
Bye-bye.